Hey guys, it's Ivorie. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things from mental health and wellness to plants and everyday journeys in my life. I put out 2 videos per month about mental health and wellness, and this is one of those 2 videos. Today I'll be talking about coping with COVID-19 and other global pandemics. Right to it and be very real and very transparent about how I've been dealing with all of the changes that have been brought about by 2020 and some tips about how to get you through. Now, this is not one of those, here's the top 5 things that you can do to thrive through COVID-19 videos. This is not that. This is more so, I want to be very realistic and acknowledge that I know many of you are having real feelings, real reactions, anxiety, fear, and other reactions associated with COVID-19. And I do want to make space to acknowledge that and to acknowledge that, yeah, everything's not just gonna be, we're thriving throughout this. This is a real stressor that's going on and is affecting us. So rather than give you the top whatever tips about how you can thrive during this time, I'm more so gonna talk about some tips and general things regarding managing emotions during this time. I know that this is a hard time for most people. Many of you have lost loved ones from COVID-19. Graduations have been canceled, vacations have been canceled, relationships have been canceled, 2020 has been canceled. I also know that at the time when this video is coming out, most states have lifted restrictions or eased restrictions, so we're not necessarily staying in the house anymore. And the timing of this video is actually perfect because I do want to address the fact that although we're not necessarily restricted to our homes anymore, we have no idea what the winter is going to bring and what next spring is going to bring. And cases are still on the rise. And so there is definitely still a need for talking about how we can cope with all of these changes that are happening. Now that we're months into it, that initial fear reaction has eased for many people. That's because we've been desensitized to it. You know how you sit in a chair and initially you feel the chair under your butt, but after a while of sitting, that feeling kind of goes away? Same thing if I were to kind of poke you with a pen. It might be really annoying at first, but eventually you're probably just gonna ignore me and that feeling might go away. Or if you hear a clock ticking in a quiet room, initially that's going to be really annoying and you might not be able to focus, but after a while, you're not even going to notice it anymore. These are just small examples of how we get desensitized to things so that we're no longer angry or annoyed and they just don't bring about the same reaction that they initially did. Now, those are very small, non-dangerous examples, but healthcare workers know of something called alarm fatigue. This is where you're constantly hearing alarms go off, like beepers and monitors and ventilators and pagers. And eventually, after hearing this for so long, you get desensitized to it. And so it doesn't bring about that same alarm emergency reaction anymore, and your reaction time might be slower to it, which can be really dangerous. And that same thing is happening with COVID-19. We've been constantly bombarded with alarms from the news and social media and conversations and wherever. And not only that, but we've also been socially isolated and tired of being cooped up in the house. And so when we have that combination of things, people are not really having the same reaction to it that we did in the beginning. The longer this happens, the less concerned we become. Since we're talking about pandemics, let's also talk about the race pandemic. We're in a time where there has been a lot of unrest due to police brutality and clear racism within our society. This is not new. Black people didn't just start getting killed by the police, but many people get desensitized to it. Oh wow, another Black man was killed by the police today. Until something egregious happens, like George Floyd. And that snaps you back into realizing, wow, this is a big problem. And back to COVID, that something egregious could be you getting sick yourself, or a close friend getting sick, or a relative dying from COVID-19. That snaps you back into realizing that, yes, this is a pandemic, and yes, this is very serious. Now I want to take the time to say to everyone watching this video that whatever your emotions and reactions to all of this has been, that's completely normal. Many of us are having trouble concentrating. Many of us are having trouble going to work. Many of us are having trouble maintaining our relationships. You may be feeling anxiety, grief, anger, helplessness, and there's nothing abnormal about any of those reactions. And the reason I emphasize this is that some people may try to tell you, oh, just get up and keep going. You shouldn't feel that way. You need to just keep pushing through, without acknowledging that you're actually struggling in that moment and that you really do need to take a break in order to get back to your normal everyday life, which, by the way, there is nothing normal about 2020. One of the problems within our society is this tendency to just push things down and just bottle it up, but eventually that's going to explode. You don't have to try to push it away or say, I can't feel that right now. I give you permission to just sit in that. On the flip side, there are people who have been productive and you've been getting things done, and go you, that's great. For some people, that's the only way that they know how to cope, is just to keep going. But I hope that you are also aware of your limits and that you know and recognize when you're approaching that limit. Let me tell you how that worked out for me. When we were first told to work from home back in March, I was like, okay, cool. I'm about to be on it. I'm about to get so much stuff done. I'm about to clean the house. Perfect time for spring cleaning, right? So I initially made 3 checklists of things that I wanted to get done for work, things that I wanted to get done in my home, and things that I wanted to get done in my personal life. And these were pretty long checklists. And I said, well, who knows how long we'll be working from home? I'll just go through all of them. And each day I got up, made my coffee, sat at my desk, made my checklist with the top things I wanted to accomplish that day, and I got to work. I was working out, I was getting work done, I was joining meetings and other extra learning activities, and I was on it. And then a month passed and I was no longer cooking for myself. I was no longer working out. I was no longer able to concentrate on work. I was no longer able to talk to friends on the phone as much as I would like because I had pushed myself too much. So again, it's important to realize when you're approaching that limit and to take a step back. And I know that that can be difficult because we don't always, 1, recognize when we're approaching that limit, and 2, want to take that step back, either because we feel like we don't have time because we have so much to do, or because we feel like we might let somebody down if we do take a minute to ourselves. I always emphasize to people that you cannot pour into other people, other causes, other societies, other organizations until your cup is full first. And what I mean by that is you need to make sure that you're good first so that you can put forth your best foot and your best effort for whatever those other causes and people may be. So after I realized, look, you're not your best self right now, I took a break. I took a break for a few days away from media, away from social media, because believe it or not, seeing video after video of people get trampled and stomped and kneeled on and tased and knocked down and having their head busted open, seeing that over and over again is very traumatizing. So in that time of my break, I surrounded myself with things that I knew would bring me joy and that I knew would help me to recharge so that when I was ready to get back out there into that fight, I was able to do so. I don't want you to feel selfish or judged or guilty about taking that time away. I do want you to reframe the way you think about that time. Your taking time away does not mean that you don't care about these causes. You are taking time away because you care about these causes. And I say causes, but that cause could literally be you being a better parent to your kid, or a better husband or girlfriend, or a better sibling or friend. So when I took that time, I started cooking for myself again. I started eating. I went for a run. I called a friend. I've been less irritable, and I've been able to each day say, okay, where am I putting my efforts today? What cause am I looking into today? What petition am I signing today? What letter am I writing today? But I couldn't do that before. So again, I'm not gonna give you top whatever number things that will definitely get you through this pandemic, but I do wanna mention a few things that I believe are important. The first is normalize what you're feeling. If no one has told you that what you're feeling is normal today, I'm here to tell you, it's normal. Next, figure out what is going to work for you during this time. You may have to experiment with different and new activities because maybe what you always used to do to get you through isn't quite cutting it anymore. We're in a whole new ball game. So maybe you've always been an organizer like me, but that did not work out this time. But what did work for me this time was really pouring myself into my plants and into starting this YouTube channel. But I wouldn't have known that those things would work for me unless I had been flexible enough to try. Maybe you get into sewing. Maybe you've always wanted to try meditation. Go ahead and try it. Next, keep your body healthy. Your physical health and your mental health are tied together, so let's make sure that you're taking care of your bodily needs. Get enough sleep, get some exercise, get some fresh air, 6 feet apart. I know it's easier said than done. I know, trust me, your girl knows. So put it on the calendar. Try some new workout music, get some new workout clothes, try a new recipe. Next is to lean into or out of your relationships. Some people are calling 2020 the year of perfect vision because we're able to see that maybe relationships we've been holding on to for a while just aren't serving us anymore. And at that point, it's okay to say, all right, I'm gonna head out. And for relationships that maybe aren't quite to that point, you may be learning that you and that other person have different levels of communication needs. And so you might need to communicate a little bit less or communicate a little bit more and figure out what works for the both of you. I also want you to give yourself permission to not be as productive as you always were, and to not take that as you being lazy. Last, you guys know that I have to encourage you to seek help from a licensed mental health professional. You may be dealing with many emotions and life transitions, and it is perfectly okay if you need or want to talk to a therapist. Many therapists and psychologists are offering telehealth services, so now would be a good time to check in with your insurance, see what providers are in your area, and give them a call and see if they are doing telehealth, and that way you don't have to go into the office. Other options, some of you may have heard of online therapy apps and websites like BetterHelp and Talkspace. And with these services, you can also get help from a licensed mental health professional, and you can choose a plan that works for you. This video is not sponsored and I am not affiliated with them in any kind of way, but I do just want to let you know that you got choices. So guys, let me know in the comments what you have been doing to help get you through this pandemic. As always, check in with yourself. Is your cup full? I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
Questions I realized too, I got imperfections. I got imperfections. I got imperfections. Still blessing.